He said, do you think this will make you the face of track and field? He said, no, because I'm not as obnoxious as Noah Lyles. This is the guy who just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sitting on the stage with Noah Lyles, which I love that energy. If you ever met me, you would know that's me.
No,
I would never do that because y'all are dumb. Yeah.
Hey, y'all, it's Joe and Czar here for another edition of the Connor's Couch Sports Edition, hence our USA attire.
And I'm giving like pickleball-esque.
Yes.
I think I'm giving USA.
Yes, absolutely.
We're still celebrating the Olympics, guys. They brought, I feel like, the United States together in a way that we absolutely needed.
1,000%. We was at the pool the other day chanting USA. And
yes.
That's something that we would never normally do, ever.
And right after that, we threw it down, stomped on it, and walked out the place. So if you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. I'm your girl, Intisar Eleanor. This is my beautiful husband, Joe. And you are in store for a special sports edition of the Connor's Couch.
Shout out to our people who was been rocking with us and was jumping in the comments on the last one we did. The last couple we did was actually really fun. They just kind of spaced out because that's how the schedule worked. So we're going to do a little bit of an Olympic recap. And we got a couple things to hit, so we're going to try to hit them, and we got stuff to do, so we're going to try to hit them and move on. I
just sprung something on my husband, y'all. He is really annoyed with me, but he's being a good husband.
I'm not annoyed with you. I'm trying to be diligent about our media schedule.
Okay, he's right.
So the first thing up is USA basketball, which was a pretty exciting tournament on both sides, both the men and women, but we could start with the men. I think this was one of the more entertaining Olympic basketball tournaments that I've witnessed. And mainly just because the competition is just at a different level. I've seen a lot of comparisons to the Dream Team, the Jordan, the Barkley, that team. And I just honestly think that there really is no comparison. I think the way that the international game has evolved to this point is worlds away from the environment that the Dream Team played in. With all due respect to them, they were great and they were iconic for the moment and for that time, and they still are iconic. But I'm saying in context of what they were and what they were doing, I think you can give context to the comparisons without disrespecting either team, which I think people in the social media space have a hard time doing. Right? If you like, apples, you must hate pears. You know what I mean? And that's just, I want to just get away from that. And I want us to be able to just have a real discussion about these things without somebody crying in the comments about it. Okay. Yeah. With respect to the Dream Team and their era, they were iconic for that time. One of those reasons is because they came together at a time where we weren't sending our best overseas. Right? So that was a thing of them coming together. Like some of the players had to convince the other players to go. You know what I mean? Like,
what do you mean?
Like, I think it was Larry Bird or Charles or one of those guys.
Oh, historically, they had to convince them to be on the Olympic team. Because
it wasn't a thing. The guys now are excited to do it, and they're upset that, we'll talk about Jaylen Brown, they're upset when they're not picked. You know what I mean? It's a thing now. You know what I mean? Guys want to go. It's big. It's big on the international stage. It's big with sponsors. It just wasn't that way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Full context, it also wasn't that way with other countries within the competition. Right? They were playing guys who was going outside, throwing a rock to hit somebody and asking them, hey, you want to play for Botswana's Olympic basketball team?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's because these professionals have now gone overseas to the NBA. They might have been international professionals that have been drafted by the NBA.
Yes.
Now they get to go back to their homes and their countries,
yes,
and also be representatives there.
1,000%. And back in it just wasn't an international game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why people attribute, I say the GOAT conversation has so much wrapped up in it because it's not just skill in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot of people, the Jordan thing, which a lot of people fail to admit, the Jordan is my GOAT thing, is much of it is attributed to the nostalgia of it and the legacy of it, right? He was one of the first international sports superstars in America. He's one of the reasons why basketball is an international sport. When they went overseas, it was like the Beatles touching down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, you know what I'm saying? And he was a catalyst for that, as well as launching one of the biggest brands in the world that we now know as Nike, and launching the Jordan brand and as a subsidiary of Nike. So I think there's a lot of things and a lot of reasons why we should respect that team and the iconic things that they did. Just being the first, it's a lot. It says a lot about the person who is the first, and that person should always be respected as such. But we also, when we get new information, need to change our opinion, right?
Yes.
So the idea that like the dream team would have walked all over this new team, or I
don't even understand how that's a conversation. I feel like to your point, not only has the level of play changed, but the technology by which people are able to heal.
Yes.
From certain injuries and make them jump higher and faster. So much has changed, and that doesn't take away from how great you were then. It's just maybe it's okay if it doesn't translate right now, and we should speak of it. If it is legacy, why don't we speak of it as a foundation versus competition?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Because to me, the competition aspect of it is just not there.
Right. No.
You know what I'm saying?
The kids are smarter. They're faster. Everything is changing.
Bigger, stronger, faster is the other day, I take my nephew to his training. We weren't doing off-season training workouts when I was playing basketball and stuff. I'm taking him to his training. I walk into the facility. The boys is sitting in a room in a cryo chamber with the cold cryo stuff on their legs. You know what I'm saying? Doing post-workout training and stuff like that. They're 13.
Right.
This is how our athletes are being built today.
Yeah.
They're just built differently. Back in the day, people don't say that, Bill Russell is the greatest of all time because a lot of his, or Wilt Chamberlain, because a lot of his competition was against people who had full-time jobs.
Right.
Literally. You know what I mean? Like, they played basketball as a professional athlete, and then they went to work for the post office. You know what I mean? So when we talk about these things and we compare these teams, we can't do it as if we don't understand the reality of how these athletes and how the sport itself has evolved. We can attribute evolution to everything else in the world other than sports for some reason. Like, we can say that a computer from 1996 would never outperform a computer that was made in 2024.
Right.
But if I say a basketball player from
Beyonce is better than Michael Jackson, I'm crazy.
No, that's not where we going.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not. But I'm saying,
how ain't it? Listen, that's not where we at.
What I'm saying is, so if I were to say that an all-star team that was put together in 2024 is from the top to the bottom, it's just a better team skill-wise than a team that was put together in 96. How is it that people can't comprehend that? You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
You look at people like Wemby. Wemby didn't exist in 96. There wasn't a 7'6" guy who can dribble and shoot threes.
Right.
The shooting guards, Jordan wasn't shooting threes like that. You know what I mean? So I just think the idea that, like, we can't attribute the players evolving and becoming bigger and stronger and faster. We can't attribute that to humans, but we can to technology.
I think the problem is that the NBA has not found a way to still pay homage, and I'm attributing this to the NBA, which they probably aren't the people who are at fault here, but I can't. Maybe if I tell you my thoughts, you can kind of bring me back. I think that they're at fault for not being good at a legacy foundation in the same way that the MLB is. You don't have to talk about, I don't know who's playing with Shohei Ohtani and shit on Jackie Robinson.
Right.
We can hold those two in the same. They understand legacy because it's America's favorite pastime. So they understand there's history that comes with that. I don't understand the dynamic with basketball where it's like this thing where we can't just hold the two. Like, and I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if it's because these men are still, and I say this as a good thing, still alive. But you know what I mean? Some people don't want to be put out to pasture.
I think some of it has to do with that. I think a lot of it has to do with the debate era that we are in, that was ushered in by 24-hour talk shows in the sports world that also didn't exist when the Dream Team was playing, and in '96 when the '96.
And that's Joe. You know I think that's the foundation of it. I think the real tea is that people feel like, oh, y'all ain't even talk about us when we was doing the thing, and now I got to hear about this mother jumper all day long. That's actually what it is. See how I didn't know who I was? It's really rooted in that.
I think
a lot of everything that comes behind, even Anthony Edwards, for example, and I'm saying him because people are saying he's the next Jordan or whatever. He's like legacy. The next Jordan or whatever the case may be. And people are so offended by that.
Yeah.
And it's really primarily because it's not enough that it's not enough that Jordan got a sneaker with his whole body on it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, that ain't enough for him. So, like, or people who are fans of his, it might not even be Michael Jordan. That's not enough. The fact that y'all didn't have the fame that these guys the money, the fame, all of that these young people have been able to garner at a much younger age, and they can play longer, if we're being honest, because of technology and everything like that. So now you will always be outpaced. Because just sheerly because of that. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times people are just upset because of the era that they're born in.
Yeah, I agree. I think wanting to hold on to the past, not being able to realize that there's going to be someone better.
Yes.
Like there's one of my coaches told me back in the day, there's always going to be someone better. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a matter of whether or not they have been discovered yet, and whether or not you're going to work harder than them. But there's always going to be someone better. You know what I mean? I'm a LeBron fan. LeBron is the GOAT guy. And there's going to be someone better. Someone's going to come along one day and usurp LeBron. Right now, I think he has the throne as greatest of all time. But there's going to be someone better. And I think that there's a large constituency from the boomer generation that just don't subscribe to that. Like, no, it was the greatest, and it will always be the greatest until the end of time. And
but I also think the metrics have changed on what the greatest of all time means. So because there was no social media or anything like that, you didn't have to have a socially conscious presence in order to be considered the greatest anything of all time. Nowadays, that's actually a factor in whether or not you can be considered a GOAT.
It's definitely
people want to know who you are, why you are, what made you choose that, and because LeBron is in this age, he has to be conscious of what he says, how he says it. That's a lot of things that these other people did not have to do.
And I'm gonna tell y'all, if Michael Jordan was around in this social media era, a lot of y'all would not be stumping for this man the way y'all are to be the greatest of all time.
And high key, and y'all not gonna like this. High key, and this is no disrespect to the legacy of Kobe Bryant. I feel the same way about Kobe Bryant.
That's true. I think
y'all didn't. The people. If Kobe Bryant is really, really, and he is technically like on the millennial cusp.
He's on the cusp.
So he's at the age of technology where he could feel it from the past move into to where we are now. And I think if he had, Twitter. Instagram, TikTok, I don't know that it's the guy that you guys. I think it helped him that he didn't.
Y'all just wouldn't be laying y'all life down for this argument. Y'all wouldn't, like, especially in a day and age where we are, like you said, so hyper socially conscious. Yes. Brands are more conscious. Do you know what Michael Jordan said when they approached him to take a stance politically? He said, Republicans buy shoes too.
Which they do.
But this is
that's the point, right?
You know what I mean?
That's the point.
We're in a time where you can't just say I want peace. You have to say I'm Israel or I'm Palestine.
Right. Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you just do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like they killed the one young lady, the celebrity girl. I can't remember her name, because she just said I just want peace on both sides, and they said no, F you, pick a side. Like that's just the time that we live in. So imagine Michael Jordan and this, like y'all just wouldn't. But anyway, we're going to move on.
But wait, we do need to shout out their team. I thought that the game was really good. I think we should round it back to the...
okay. Yeah. No, I agree. But finish what you were saying.
No, I thought it was a really surprisingly good game to watch. I was actually surprised, if I'm being honest. I know Wemby wasn't playing his best up until the last game or so.
Yeah, he really didn't.
Last game and a half.
He really didn't have a tournament.
Yeah, but which also I expected, because this is his second year.
This is his first Olympics.
But he's coming up in his second year in the league, right?
But also somebody who has played international ball prior to being in the league as a youngster. So that's another thing too that's neglected when we talk about the competition and we compare these teams. Like these guys, our current NBA superstars that are on this USA basketball team, they're playing against guys who Luka Doncic started playing professional basketball at 16.
Oh wow, I never knew that.
You know what I mean? You can play over there. You can come out the room and you can shoot. They're going to put you on a basketball court. You can be 15 on a pro team. You know what I'm saying? So by the time that these guys even get to the NBA, they're so far seasoned over even the American youngsters, which is why we're in a time now where what was it? 4 or 5 of the top 10 players drafted in this players draft were international players. Guys who's never they didn't play. They didn't go to Duke. They didn't go to UNC. They didn't play for any of these big blue blood collegiate basketball programs, because the game is catching up. So when people talk about this night, the dream team and how they would have ran circles around, it's just like y'all really are just.
But I also think there's another element of that. We do not have time to get into it on this podcast. But I also think that there is, and I don't care, we can fight about this. We don't have. They are trying to lighten the NBA, and I don't know if you guys feel it.
What you mean?
I feel like the next GOAT is going to be cream flavored. Oh. I think I really do. I feel that way, and I think that's fine. Do not get me wrong. But I think that there is something happening, and I think when it happens, what you're going to see is the salaries are going to skyrocket, like MLB contracts. Okay, because they want to wait to get all you mugs out of there. Okay, you're picking all you mugs out of there. They want to get y'all all out, and then they're going to start drafting them straight from. I think they are almost setting these teams up in Serbia and stuff like that.
It's really crazy. They're almost to the point now where they're discussing the idea of an all-star game that is U.S. versus the world, right? And so this is not something that we would have ever talked about in 1994.
Which is about the impact of that dream team. That is based on the impact of that dream team. Yes. So just so they know that we talking about y'all in a good way too.
Yes. Like you know what I mean. That's what I was saying in the opening. Like we can attribute these intangibles to that team and praise them for that, and at the same time make the statement that the competition is just different. It's just better. It's just better. Sudan.
Love them.
Sudan. Who was it? I'm sorry. It was Japan. Japan almost beat Germany or Serbia. First of all, I was watching a game between Japan and Serbia. Also something that nobody would have said in 1994 or 5 or 6. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just would have never sat down and just watched, Sudan versus Serbia. You just wouldn't have done it. But now there's NBA players on every roster. You know what I mean? And it just makes the games better.
That does I agree. It makes the games way better. And then you also have a much deeper appreciation for the player. Like
1,000%.
knowing where they come from, seeing the guys on the Sudan team and everything. That meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? Like I loved seeing that. Or even Canada. I know you got some smoke for Canada. But even seeing the guys from Canada, playing for, their team and everything like that.
Their whole starting five is basically the one
NBA players.
Yeah. Like one of the reasons why they were a big favorite in this tournament, it came up short because Canada. They were a big favorite in tournaments. Their whole starting five is NBA players. That's something that the Barclays team and the Jordan team from Olympics past never saw. They never saw. Guess how many NBA players they faced in their Olympic run, that dream team?
10.
Wasn't even double digits. Right? Now, this is not on one team. This is in their Olympic tournament run. Right? So you'll see things that noted as being 6. You'll see 5 or 6. The truth of the matter is, even that number is counting guys who were not yet in the NBA when they played them and later ended up. So the actual number is around 3 or 4 players.
Yeah.
When they were playing Olympic basketball and that dream team was running over people, they saw less than 5 NBA players in that entire tournament. Right? Now you fast forward to this team, who Canada's starting 5 is all from the NBA. You know what I mean? And it's not just them. It's NBA players all over. Some people say the best player in the NBA right now is not American born. He plays for Serbia.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And Jokic. So it's just a completely different world.
He was mad they lost.
He should have been.
He was mad they lost.
They were supposed to go way further.
Like I was like seeing his face. I was like, ugh. But the truth of the matter is, I'm very glad that the USA team won. This was like their redemption story, because last time that they played in the Olympics, they actually got the silver medal. Mm-hmm. So this was really big for them. And another thing that I liked is that, it's so funny. You see how much us as a people, we're in the same age group as like LeBron James. So like seeing him, this being his last Olympics, and potentially KD and potentially Steph Curry, it just makes you feel like, damn, like Beyonce ain't dancing no more. You know what I mean? Like, what is happening in the world? I'm not going to lie, the Olympics did a lot for my morale. Culturally, this time around, you know what I mean? Like being American born in America and everything like that, like it did a lot. It just did a lot.
1,000%.
It did a lot.
They had me screaming at the TV, especially to see how fired up and passionate they were about it, and then to see something that will be an anomaly with Steph Curry and LeBron James playing on the same team, right? So Steph Curry got to play with Kevin Durant and win a championship, and LeBron got to play with Anthony Davis and Dwayne Wade. But when you get to see maybe 2 of top 10 all time, maybe top 5, depending on how you have your thing all time. And then you see them, they hugged at the end of this. It was the game before the semi. So it was the Serbia game. And I was ready to sign up for the military. I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like completely out of my character. Like, you know what I mean? I'm screaming at the TV, and because they were it was emotional to see LeBron James hold Steph Curry's head and they screaming at each other. You know what I'm saying? They were so excited. And that's just something that we don't know that we'll even be able to see them play meaningful basketball games because of their teams.
And big ups, that part as well, but also big ups to Peacock. I think that this was one of the best. Peacock did a phenomenal job hosting the Olympics on their platform.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody made a really good point. Like, I was turned on to so many different aspects in sports and, different talents that other people had across the world, just based on being able to have that access to the Peacock application. Yeah. And I think that is such a bit, that also made it easier and much more fun to watch these games, the Olympics, because the access, which I also think they hating on from the past, because you had to be there at a certain amount of time or whatever.
That was it. You wasn't replaying
and that was it,
and rewatching or anything.
And
like
you don't get that sense of like, you don't get the schedule in real time. Yep. You don't get to Google it and say, okay, with the women playing at 10 or they running at 10 or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I feel like the men's team was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. So they ended up beating France in the final. France played over their skis. I think that I just don't think that it's a coincidence. I'm going to say this and leave it alone. That the France women's and men team made it to the final in Olympic basketball. No one had that on their card when the Olympics started.
But we've been seeing, and I try not to like listen to what other people say, especially when we're about to film about a specific topic. But we've been seeing so many things about like the think pieces that are going to come out about how Paris kind of held the Olympics. And I think what's also different with this Olympics, the more we have social media in real time, 24-hour news cycling, the more you can call BS out.
Yes.
So now we're seeing all these little flaws and stuff like that. So LA, don't pull it.
Because I can't wait to see this documentary. It was a lot of weird stuff that we'll talk about as well that happened with track and field. But I just thought everybody knew the men and women were favorite. The American men and women were favorites to be in the gold medal game. France, men and women, they were not. They were not favorites. So I just thought that was. But LeBron ended up winning Olympic MVP.
Do you think he deserved that?
1,000%. Now, my take on that is real quick. Is this LeBron from the exhibition games has been the glue that held this team together. Period. Since the exhibition games, since they was out here in Vegas and opened up their Olympic run that we was at for the USA versus Canada game, up to the final game. Steph Curry, shout out to Steph Curry. Steph Curry had an amazing final 2 games.
Yes.
That's just the reality of it.
Anthony Edwards said he just showed up. That last game, he said, you just showed up.
That's it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we needed him. And I'm so glad that he was able to play in his first Olympics and win his first gold medal. But go look at Steph Curry's numbers. Steph Curry, the first 4 games of the Olympics, Steph Curry scored 29 points. That's not per game. That's in the first 4 games.
Oh, combined. Ooh.
He was having a terrible Olympics. He just was. But we all, and kudos to the basketball fans out there, we all thought it's coming. Like, he's going to open the floodgates.
Because he's consistent enough.
And he's due a good game. You know what I mean? And he wanted it bad enough. You know what I mean? And he's a process guy. So he's going to keep shooting and he's going to keep showing up. And so
what do you think it was? Yips?
Honestly, I think it was a little bit of the yips, a little bit of nerves, because you got to think LeBron James on paper, there's no way he should have been the best player on that team.
Right.
He was voted the best player on the team by his own players and coaches. He was voted MVP by the FIBA organization at 40 years old, almost 40 years old, in year 21 or 22, whatever year this is, of his professional career, on a team where Jason Tatum just won an NBA Finals, and you got Ant-Man, and you got Anthony Davis, and you got Devin Booker, and you got blah, blah, on and on and on. There's no way that LeBron James should have been the best player on the team, and he was. So one, he deserved MVP for that reason, because he was just consistently great. Steph had a great finals game. He had a great semifinals game. And those 2 games, he scored 60 points in those 2 games combined, right? But before then, he was MIA.
Right.
You know what I mean? Kevin Durant came in, had a great first game off the bench. Was pretty consistent in his scoring. I think he was a 13.6 overall, somewhere around there for the tournament. He was great coming off the bench as well. But like, if it wasn't LeBron, who do you give it to? Steph for 2 games? You can't be great in 2 games in a series and then win MVP for the series. You know what I mean? So LeBron kept it. He was the glue together. He was the glue that kept the team together. He led the team in every category: points, rebounds, assists, and field goal percentage. You know what I mean? So he absolutely deserved MVP. I think adding to not only the numbers and the eye test was just the fact that he was doing this under the circumstances of, Steve Kerr made a good point. He said, I think we're the only team that if we win silver, our fans are disappointed. He said, I think we're the only team in the world where that's factual for us. You know,
and I think it's, I said that as well, and I think that makes sense to me, because you're the only team on a global scale where the people across the seas is making, you know, 60, 70, 80,000, $100,000. And you're making millions of dollars to be in this elite. Like, they're the only team, literally, out of every sport that the elite of the elite of the elite are playing in this particular league. You got to think, like, you think about the soccer players, all of them make good money.
But the thing is, his point is, I remember we talked about this a while ago. Kevin Durant said the year that we ended up not winning
silver.
gold,
Yeah.
he said, I think we kind of disrespected the medal stand. And the lady said, what do you mean by that? And he said, we're on the stand, and the teams that got, a bronze medal or whatever medal less than us, they crying. You know
but
I
I
mean?
think,
and you made a good point about when we'll talk about her too. About Sha'Carri not winning gold in the 100-meter. When you look at it from a big picture, that just means that she was second in the world.
but I think Americans are the only race in the world that does not have a concept of the world.
1,000%. I agree with that.
And I think, because even you and I was, because you were kind of down too when Sha'Carri got silver.
I was absolutely
and I'm like, what are we mad about?
I was down. I was absolutely down because I wanted that.
She wasn't even there last year, but my thing is, she wanted to just represent.
That was his point. His point was, we are the only team in the world that if we win second, you know, if we come in with silver, our fans are upset. And so he said, he was speaking to the pressure is different for us. You know
but the pressure, I feel like, but I don't feel like the fans are upset because they're ignorant. The fans are not, because if you have a greater understanding.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, everybody can't be the women's team who, 8 times in a row have won Olympic gold. Everybody cannot do that.
But the fans are the same for them too. Like, people would be disappointed, and that's to your point. That's an American thing.
Exactly.
You know One more point on the men's side is the DMPs that Jason Tatum, picked up did not play. So Jason DMP'd twice in a tournament, and everybody was in an uproar about it. And when I say everybody, I mean Celtics fans. Mostly, you know what I mean? There was a few people who, are, maybe just adjacent, not hardcore Celtics fans, but people really had, strong opinions about whether or not Steve Kerr did a good job or not, because he didn't get Jason Tatum in every game, right? And I think that lost in that is, one, this team was put together to be a team, right? And so one of the advantages that Team USA basketball has is the depth, right? And being able to adapt to certain lineups to whatever the opponent's strengths or weaknesses is, right? So that means, Canada weren't a big team, so we played them kind of small, right? We needed size for Serbia, which is the reason why they went and they got Embiid in the first place. You know what I mean? And so Jason DMP'd the first game. And then second to the last game, he DMP'd. And I just thought that people made a much bigger deal about it than it needed to be, because the truth of the matter is, when he was talking, somebody had a good tweet and they said the math problem that Steve Kerr was talking about when he was saying it's just a math problem. Like, we're playing a numbers game. That's what he was saying. Somebody said the math problem that he is talking about was Devin Booker's stat line, right? So Devin Booker averaged 11.7 points. He shot 56% field goal, 56.5 from the three. He had a 20-3 assist to turnover ratio. That's huge. He played great defense. He shoots the three better than Jason Tatum. So that's somebody who took major time away from Jason and just was a better fit for certain matchups. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we talk about teams playing series in the playoffs, we talk about styles making fights and it all being about the matchup. You know what I'm saying? I said all year, that the Lakers really should have ducked the Denver Nuggets because it was just a bad matchup to me. I thought they would have been in the finals had they not played Denver in the first round, because I just thought the personnel did not match up, and it felt like Denver, no matter where they playing them, in what world, on what court, the matchups would have favored Denver. So I thought the whole Jason Tatum thing was just matchups to me. Like, I just thought that the only reason why he didn't, and you got to think, in no world does any team play all 12 of their guys in every game.
Also that, and I also feel like this is such an American conversation.
It is. Because we won. And we were winning when this conversation started.
But what people don't think about, all the people that travel to the Olympics. Everybody that goes to the Olympics, guys, doesn't compete.
Right.
And that's also, but that's also having limited knowledge about. See, we think because we see them as superstars, everybody should, but it's such a different playing field.
Right.
And you have to play to that field. You know what I mean? And I think that it's like in football. Sometimes there's turf and sometimes there's grass.
Right.
And they play that differently. And I think that in this case, respectfully, I don't give a damn about Jason Tatum because Jaylen Brown was supposed to be there anyway.
How about that? Hold on. Elephant in the room. Jason Tatum is coming off a team
where he wasn't the MVP of his team.
He wasn't the best player of his team. And not in the finals, nor was he the best player in the Eastern Conference Finals, which Jaylen Brown won the MVP in that series too. So let's ease up on the whole Jason Tatum thing. Let's just ease up on the whole Jason Tatum thing.
That's all I'm saying. And and I'm not saying it like that because Jason Tatum is kind of like, I love him, but I
like him too.
I like him. Something about him I actually really like. It's not a hate piece.
I like him. It's
just a not too much, y'all. Slow down.
Because also Steve Kerr is a coach for the team and for the players, and he's coaching to win games. He's not coaching to make sure that everybody get enough shine. That's the problem. It's not an all-star game.
And that's the problem.
It's not an all-star game.
Because it's not that he didn't play. He played. And he played when he was supposed to play. Right. And the point is, y'all won enough. But I want to talk about the women's USA basketball team was phenomenal. And I don't think I was going through all the TikToks and everybody saying, everything they were about Caitlin Clark being there and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I am so glad that these women won. I knew that they were going to win. They were obviously the favorites and everything like that. But Kalia Cooper, which I knew she was a dog. She's from Philly. I knew she was a dog, but I'm not gonna lie. That last game, she was like the Tasmanian devil, bro.
And they needed. I was praying for these girls to win so bad because I was nervous about the backlash that they would get.
Yes.
If they lost this game,
they had to win.
They had to win. I was watching we was doing something and I'm watching the score on my phone and I'm like, this game is still close. And it was very close. I was getting nervous. They ended up winning by 1 point against France, 67-66.
So she thought she hit a 3, but she hit a 2 because the foot was on the line,
which is also very scary and very crazy.
Scary
because if she hits that, they go into overtime, right? I think they go into overtime.
They go into overtime.
Yeah, because they end up tying the game with that, which I think they would have won it in overtime anyway. But I'm glad that they won because the Caitlin Clark war was going to rage on like we've never seen it before. And
y'all was going to talk about all these old biddies and Breanna Stewart and Diana Taurasi. Y'all better stop messing with these old dogs like that, okay? These girls is not playing. And they're seasoned. And you could actually tell how seasoned and how well the chemistry on the team as well.
That's basically, that's a coaching thing as well. Like, I think there's a part of, just like we were talking about with the Steve Kerr thing, he would play, the coach of the women's team was playing the aces together. You know what I mean? So she would do stuff like that, and that just adds to the chemistry because they're coaching to win the game.
Yes.
It's not an all-star game. In an all-star game, everybody just got to get in. They're just coaching egos and time. You know what I mean? Oh, Jason hasn't played yet. Let me throw him in. You know what I mean? But that was the chemistry added to the strategic goals of what they were trying to do. And I think that's another big thing that the other international teams have on the USA teams, right? These teams know each other. They've been playing together for way longer, both on the women's and the men's side. And so the chemistry thing is in the opponent's favor whenever it's USA basketball involved, right? Because the men's team was put together a month ago. And that time that when they stepped on the floor in Las Vegas and played Canada, that was the first time that particular team had ever played together.
Yeah.
Period. You know what I mean? So that's something that even the women's team was not dealing with. And so we got to take that into account too when we talk about the level of difficulty and add to how great these feats are, And
I think we just have to, I think it's so lost on us how big this is. And I think like watching it, I just had it makes you feel so small in such a large world.
Yeah.
You get to see just how talented people are on other continents and other countries, and just to see the women do exactly what we thought they was going to do, despite everybody having an attitude about the marketing and everything, all that BS or whatever. And you know what I was thinking about? We had this conversation earlier, and so many people were talking about why it was important for marketing for the women's team to have Caitlin Clark on it, right? And the more I think about it, the more I know my stance was correct, that she did not need to be there. There was just not that there was no need for her, but she will have a time. And I think that this team, in like all women's sports, women's track, women's soccer, women's goddamn table tennis, I think seeing all of these things kind of grow, it's growing the way that it's supposed to. And she was not going to catapult this. We're talking about a legacy of 8. This is their 8th gold in a row. What was she going to add? You know what I mean? Like, people were so mad about it. Like, it's 8 goals. Oh, it's marketing to a broader spectrum and everything like that. And I just still am so glad that my take was correct.
So congrats to the women, because that was also a very entertaining finals game, similar to the men's, except it was a real nail biter. So I'm glad that they pulled this out. So let's talk about, I want to say her name right, Imane Kalif. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Okay, Imane Kalif. So Imane Kalif is the Olympic boxer who you guys might have heard, because there was a lot of stuff said about whether or not she was a woman or a man or trans. One of the reasons why I did want to talk about it is because I don't see a lot of people bringing facts to the conversation. It's a lot of feeling in it, and I want to talk about the facts of the matter, right? And then y'all can make your conclusions and leave them in the comments. This whole thing started when there was a video that went live, because a lot of people weren't watching before this video hit the airwaves. This video went live. She was boxing the young lady. I believe she was from...
Or was it Italy?
It might have been Italy. The match lasted 45 seconds. It was one punch thrown, and that was Miss Kalif hit the girl on her face, and the girl immediately threw up her hand and was like, I'm done. Like, I'm out, right? And so one of the things that sparked the conversation was just them people going, well, no, she got hit by a man. Like, no shit. Like, of course she would be done. You know what I mean? And so people were talking about how she got disqualified before, she shouldn't be playing, blah, 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 blah. So the truth of the matter is, she has what doctors call, what she's been clinically diagnosed with is DSD, right? So this is notes from one of the physicians that were a part of the commission that kind of basically looked into her case. Kalif has X and Y chromosomes and appears to have been marked as female at birth of a disorder of sex development. That's DSD. That causes malformation / lack of formation in genitalia. It is not factual to say that Kalif is a woman. It is also not true, as far as we know, to say Kalif is trans. The presence of X and Y chromosomes, however, does mean that Kalif is male and has testosterone levels far above female levels. This gives a distinct and unfair advantage, which is why the International Boxing Association ruled Kalif ineligible to compete against women prior to the Olympics. So remember, we were talking about this a while ago, and I said she was already disqualified, but she was before, and when she was fighting the world, but she was disqualified because of the elevated testosterone levels, which, if you follow boxing, you know that man, women, cat, or dog would be disqualified if that was the case. If you come into a boxing match with heightened testosterone levels, because that can be traced back to doping and all types of illegal testosterone builder and all types of illegal substances that aren't allowed in the field of competition in professional boxing. Okay. So when you look this up and I employ everyone to do their own research, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about this. When you look this up and you do your own research, you should also look up the rules, the typical rules of PBC, just professional boxing, the World Boxing Commission, all of that stuff. You should look this up, because then you will find that anyone who comes into a boxing match with elevated levels of testosterone, man or woman, is typically disqualified, right? So I'm not here to say whether she whether I think she is a man or woman or trans or whatever, I'm just here to say she shouldn't have been allowed to box. She shouldn't have been allowed to box, because if you look up what the DSD and the things that it means that she has, it means that when a woman is being punched by her, she feels like she's being hit by a man. And so to me, just like the boxing International Boxing Association said, it gives her an unfair advantage, because from what the doctors are saying, from the insides, if you were to cut her open from the insides, it would appear to be male, right? She cannot produce kids, from what the physicians are saying. She does not have ovaries. So this is a thing of however this disease has fleshed itself out, she is almost built like a male. And when she's punching with the power of a man. You know what I mean? She ended up winning, and not surprisingly so. But so I think that's the tricky part about it. I just thought that she shouldn't have been boxing because of the height, because of the way she tested, and because they investigated this before and found that she had heightened levels of testosterone, which gave her an unfair advantage in fighting women. There's
so much of this that I don't see as wrong. I do think there's a space where people should not be allowed. If it's welterweight, if you need to be a certain weight, a certain height, whatever the case may be, I do believe that all should stand. I think this is testy because, I don't need to discount anything that you've said, but I just feel like politically, there's a lot of red tape around this. And I have my thoughts, but I also, she hasn't boxed that many people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? All being women, won them all. You know what I mean? And I do think there's a conversation to be had here. But I also think we as a people globally evolve, we'll have a better understanding of who is in our world. You know what I mean? I think that some of these things we just haven't seen on either a local scale or a specifically on a country scale, that people are competing in these events, you know what I mean, at this high level. And I think that when we move into Los Angeles, I think there'll be some differences.
Oh, for sure. I think 100%. It goes back to what we were talking about with France and how they did their Olympics and how it went, and a lot of things that will be highlighted when that documentary comes out. I cannot wait to watch it, because they had a lot of stuff going on in France this year that just rubbed me the wrong way. And like you said, people are politicizing this in particularly, and to me, it ain't about whether you Democratic or Republican, or whether you a LBGT, ABC ally or whatever. To me, that's why I wanted to do my research on it, because to me, it's just about the state of competition and the rules, and whether or not I thought, like I said, if it was a man who came in with elevated levels of testosterone,
even fighting a man,
I would say the same thing. I would say, I don't think that they should have been allowed to fight. So, but do your own research and let us know what you think in the comments. We're going to move on to Noah Lyles, which
Joe, let me tell y'all something. Y'all can never make me hate Noah Lyles.
You ain't gotta hate him, but most people don't.
Y'all can never make me hate Noah Lyles. I think Noah is. I would hope. One of my hopes, when they say you your ancestors' greatest prize, I feel like one of my hopes is that I could raise a young man with as much hubris and confidence to be able to perform at the level that he does. To me, he does do things. He has antics. There are antics.
Yes, because we can't just say
there are antics.
Every athlete should have confidence, and you have to make it to these levels,
right? To be great.
But there's a line,
and he competes one-on-one.
There's a line, and Noah has crossed that line multiple times. He's a habitual line stepper, and that's why a lot of people in the comments from the American side was not really rooting for him. It's why some of his own teammates didn't have kind words to say about him. So let's go back to the antics.
But people didn't like Kobe Bryant either, y'all.
Let's never do that, because he's not Kobe. Noah Lyles ends up running the 100 meters and winning.
Getting gold.
He won the gold medal in the 100 meters, and it was a really good race. It was a very, really close race, but it was super entertaining, and he was able to push and win by, the hair on his chin. He comes out when they go to run the 200 meter. If you see the video, he literally went away from his blocks and like did a spin on the track and threw his hands up and all of the histrionics and all of the antics. Then he got in his blocks, runs the race, and proceeded to get beat. He lost the gold medal to the young man from Botswana, Tobago.
Right.
And his teammate, Kenny Bednarik, I hope I'm saying his name right, got the silver medal. Shout out to Kenny Bednarik. But the story wasn't even the entrance. It was after he did all the backflips and rolled on the ground and told everybody how great he was before the race started, before he didn't win gold or silver. He then gets to the finish line and falls on the floor. And he's rolling. And even his own running mate, Kenny Bednarik, who won silver, which is a huge deal. He rolls on the ground. The people come out. So now everybody, including Kenny, is looking at him or whatever. The cameras, the Peacock cameras is looking at him. They carry him it was a whole thing, y'all. This thing went on for like 15 minutes, right? Completely took away from his own teammate, completely took away from the gold medalist moment. And that's the type of stuff. That's the type of reason, if you watch the Sprint documentary on Netflix, that's the thing that people were talking about when they was just like, you could just tell that they just didn't mess with him. And that's why. And
you can tell that. I think that's true. But I'm going to say this. I think, he a Leo. That makes sense. Everything he did, they can't not be the center of attention.
It just was so selfish to me.
It is very selfish. And to your point, I think on that stage, you on this international stage acting like that and doing those things, it does take away from somebody else's moment.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that Kenny got silver was a big deal.
It was a huge deal. And then it was overshadowed by, I got COVID.
Right. Oh, so that's the only reason why Kenny beat me.
But did you have COVID when you came and you did cartwheels on the track before the race started? Did he have COVID then?
Right.
You know
How
what I mean?
about that?
So now you denigrate somebody else's win, including your own teammates' win.
And I think that that's kind of lost.
Even that was corny as hell.
On the bigger picture as well. Like, you're also, now it's to denigrate that. Like, now I got COVID or whatever the case may be.
But then the COVID disappeared, right? When they had their post Olympic party or whatever, and he shows up at the party, and before he shows up at the party, he makes it a point to post, I'm COVID free, y'all. So he goes, now then you see a video of him dancing. This all happened in like the span of like 48 hours.
I just feel like you're right in saying that, sportsmanship also matters.
Especially at the Olympics.
And I think it matters at the Olympics. And I think it also matters in a team. Like, I think Team USA is really fast. Not even just Team USA. All of the countries that run track are fascinating because there may be times where you're running against one another, and then there may be times when you're running with each one another. And I think that you want to make sure that you have a good dynamic when doing that. And you can tell when the chemistry is off when shit like the men's relay happens. When you start switching up the team and now they can't figure out the chemistry or moving the spots by which people run. Things like that start to upset the apple cart. And I think in this same way, Noah is kind of siloing himself. And I don't think that's going to be for the better of him. And I think that's what you're kind of getting at.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way for him to redeem himself in this. You know what I mean? And I do think that he could kind of acknowledge how good Kenny did and everything. But I do feel like in that moment it was piss poor sportsmanship. But I'm not going to pretend like track and field wasn't. They was holding me down the whole time. Like, I've been, the track and field events more than basketball was kind of what I was into, specifically because of Noah and the young man from Texas whose name I cannot remember that also ended up medaling, but he didn't medal. He got disqualified at Worlds.
Oh, you talking about Fred?
Yes,
Fred.
yes. Him, like, it was just really, that's a redemption story as well. All the
antics discounted Fred's win too. Like Fred medaling, it was also a huge deal.
A massive deal, especially seeing if you didn't watch Sprint, seeing how he had to come and overcome that. He didn't make it then, you know what I mean, at Worlds. He wasn't able to medal then, so to be able to come and on this international stage be able to show up in this manner, it was massive.
Yes, also Sprint on Netflix was a really good watch.
Phenomenal.
We were away for our, I almost say honeymoon, for our anniversary, and we basically watched Sprint the whole time.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was really, really good. Joe made a point earlier today when we were talking about like Sha'Carri, and everybody is kind of like bought into this, redemption story. She's our Cinderella in a way. Like, you know what I mean? We've seen her kind of grow up and figure things out.
But also we've seen the hate, and so we pushing back on that. Like,
and also
I rooted harder for her. After she got the hate that she got a couple years ago, it just made me root harder for her.
Right.
I hate you haters.
But yes, but I'm saying all that to say, when she got gold at World, she was the fastest woman in the 100 at World. But I think coming into the Olympics and it being just a different show, you know what I mean? Like, people, you far removed from Worlds by the time you get to the Olympics. You know what I mean? And I think that her being able to be so poised and still being able to pull off everything that she did, like, she deserves her flowers. Gabby Thomas deserves her flowers. Let me tell you something. Track and field was nothing short but bad bitches. The entire track. I ain't never seen so many bad bitches. Neil, I know. I don't even feel like a bad bitch because I'm not running. I felt like
different.
I love seeing all the beautiful women just showing up and being athletic and powerful and like gazelles. Like, these women were so Terry, baby. That baby ain't nothing to mess with, okay? And I don't care. And she don't get enough. We don't talk enough about her.
Oh, yeah.
Like, 100%. As a thing. Like, we talk a lot about Gabby Thomas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she's an exceptional black. We talk about Sha'Carri Richardson because she around the way black. But Terry is in there, too.
And
TT ain't nothing to mess with.
Yeah, 1,000%. TT is coming. Great Britain ain't had no weak links. You know what I mean? It was
they
a lot
was
of pretty
baddies.
women over there. Shout out to Great Britain.
But it was like the 4x1, I felt like was so... the energy that I had watching them, even being nervous and everything like that, I'm not going to pretend like I had that for the men. And I don't know why I didn't. Well, and I don't know why the men's track don't get more attention.
Because of Noah Lyles. So I think that...
Oh, he might be ballooning.
He is. He just is. And he's taken away from all these other guys. You know what I mean? And then he does it on the track. I can't remember who said it. I think it was the guy who won. What's his name? Botswana.
Botswana
from Botswana. They were interviewing him after he won. It was something.
He'll never be the face of track and field.
Yes, it was like, do you think this will make you? Because he won.
Yes.
And they said, do you think this will make you the face of track and field? And he said, no, because I'm not as obnoxious as Noah Lyles. This is the guy who just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sitting on the stage with Noah Lyles, which I love that energy. If you ever met me, you would know that's me.
No,
I would never do that because y'all are dumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do think that it just really is. I don't know if y'all feeling it, but it's feeling very vaginical. And I don't know why, but I feel like it is the year of the woman. I feel like women are winning and doing and coming up and showing up on stages. And it's just being spotlighted, and it's just really, really, really beautiful to see. Like, stunningly, and not just because they're pretty people, but because they are exceptional athletes. And I think it's just been so amazing to see the women where USA women won the 4x400, the 4x1. Like, we have been killing it.
Yeah, they set a record in the 4x4, and that was really fun to watch because they smoked. If you watch
gazelles,
the other girls weren't even in the frame. By the end of the race, they weren't on the front. They weren't in the frame of the camera. Like, they had to go. The cameraman is doing this because he's trying to get the girl who's in the front. So it was fun to watch. So back to Sha'Carri, there was, and speaking of more drama that happened in Paris. So the one thing, if you're a track and field fan, you realize that there was a big absence in the track and field, a lot of the track and field races, and this was a terrible year for Jamaica. They was dropping out all over the place. Shelly Ann dropped out right before the women's 100 race. Elaine was not there, and Sharika did not run in the 200.
And they didn't medal in the 4x1, which is unlike them.
They didn't even qualify.
Right.
They came in.
They came in like 5th or 6th. Yeah.
They DQ'd.
Because the baton
dropped the baton.
Yeah.
They had a terrible year. But then if you watched and you was trying to figure out like why did Shelly Ann, because the Shelly Ann news came it was right before the race started, and it just felt very random, right? And then it came out that like Shelly Ann showed up in her car, like she had a driver, and she came up after the team bus came up, and for some reason she couldn't get in, and Sha'Carri couldn't get in. And then you saw this video surface about them talking to the French security and how they was not letting them in. And it was, even though it was very obvious that it was race day and they were two of the stars that were supposed to be racing in that event. And then when they finally got in, they missed a warm-up time. And it was all this drama, more drama that's going to be in the documentary for the France Olympics. And I just think that it had to play a part in how things worked out with Shelly Ann dropping out and how things worked out with Sha'Carri not winning the gold medal in the 100 meters. I think there's, athletes are creatures of habit. And I think that the time that they spent outside when they should have been inside warming up and doing whatever that their routine is, I think it just had to affect them. And
the reason why we know it affected them, because she kind of got some redemption in the 4x1.
Yes.
So she ended up actually beating the girl in the 4x1.
Yeah.
So it's not that. So it could have actually been a matter of, being a creature of habit and being kind of knocked off your square. But I don't want to. The reason why that can be a narrative, but I want that to sit separately from her being a silver medalist. This is Sha'Carri's first time at the Olympics.
I think so. Yeah.
She was unable to qualify for the last one. So imagine everything that she put in to just getting back. Mm-hmm. Even her just coming is massive enough. Even her qualifying to be there is massive enough. And not only did she do that, she pushed the goalpost forward by saying, no, I'm going to be the greatest in the world. And I am the greatest in the world at the 100. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And at the 200, I'm the second fastest woman. And I think am I getting that right?
In the 100, she was the second fastest.
In the 100, she's the second fastest.
Yeah, she came in second in the 100.
Right, and then in the 4x1,
and it's in the she won gold in the 4 by 100 relay.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Sorry guys, I got confused. But what I'm trying to say is that she is a champion, and she's young and she's youthful, and we have to stop deprecating.
And she'll be back.
She'll be back.
She'll definitely be back.
Shelly Ann done this like her 8th one.
And but the sad part, this is why I don't like the stuff that France pulled too, because Shelly Ann made it very clear that this was going to be her last Olympics.
Yes.
So then y'all put all this bull, and which I think it added to her, dropping out and
because if you don't feel ready, she's probably like, I'm gonna leave on top.
And I think somebody said she pulled something before she dropped out of the race. But also, shout out to the young lady, Julian Alfred, who won gold in the women's 100.
Yes.
This is another thing. They weren't really talking about her. So I told Zara when I was watching, because I watched the trials or whatever. I watched a lot of track and field this year. So I watched the trials, and the guy who was doing the commentating, kind of the play-by-play for the trials, he kept talking about this young lady from St. Lucia. He's like, people not really talking about her, but y'all should watch out for Julian Alfred because she is a threat to Sha'Carri. He kept saying that. So the trials happens, and the girl doesn't race in the same heat as Sha'Carri. So they race in different heats. But when she races in her heat, she beats Sha'Carri's time. It wasn't by a lot. It was.
This is in the Olympics, though.
Yes. This is in the semis.
Yeah.
And so in her heat, she only beat Sha'Carri by a little bit. But it made me go, I'm gonna pay attention to this girl. Like I literally saw it, and I told Zara, this other girl beat Sha'Carri's time, and so we need to pay attention to her. And then she proceeds to run in the final and win the final. And so shout out to her because she just kind of came out of nowhere, but she's young and she'll be back too. And so being able to see, normally Jamaica is our biggest rival in track and field. And so obviously I think Jamaica will be back, and that's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, because the other young lady did well too in Jamaica, Clayton.
Yeah. So they're going to be back. It's going to be exciting to see how they rebound from this. But now it's going to be exciting to see Sha'Carri come back and race against this, because now the girl is here. She the one that now she's technically the fastest woman in the world. Everybody talking about her now. She kind of came out of nowhere and splashed heavy on the stage. So that's going to be exciting to see too when they meet up again. Julian Alfred and Sha'Carri. But before we get out of here, we got to talk about all of this BS that's going on with the young lady Jordan Chiles from the U.S. gymnastics team. So if you hadn't heard, which it's been out there, a short recap of this is Jordan Chiles does her routine. Her team says to her, "We think that your score should be higher, so we are going to dispute your score." So they look at it, and hopefully we can get your score bumped up. So they look at the score. I mean, they look at her routine again. They rejudge it or whatever. They give her a different score. The score bumps her from 5th place to 3rd place. They initially said that she wasn't scored correctly on the level of difficulty or something like that. So in their correction, it basically put her in the bronze medal slot. So, which is awesome. So everybody's excited about it. She ends up leaving Paris with the bronze medal. Like, she's home, right? Days later, the girl who I guess was initially in the bronze medal slot, her team goes back to the commission and says, well, we think that they shouldn't have been able to dispute the score in the first place, because there's a window. There's supposed to be like a 60-second window as to how long you have to dispute said score. So they were making a claim that they made their dispute out of the window. And apparently they whittled it down to it was 4 seconds too late. So they make that dispute to the Olympic Committee, and then they win it. So days later, they end up sending a message to Jordan Chiles and the U.S. Olympics team saying, excuse me, we made a mistake. We need you to send your bronze medal back, because we're going to take that away from you, because apparently you were outside of the window to dispute it. And so they basically swapped the 5th place girl and the 3rd place girl. More drama. And this is why I want to see this documentary, because it's just coming up real messy and really shady. And I thought that they did the girl really wrong.
And once they appealed, because the problem with the process is that the U.S. appeals and they were rejected. So they said that no, the ruling stands. Romania will continue to have the bronze medal, and that she would need to give that back. I think the issue here is that when you all initially reviewed this request, when they said that they were outside of the time limit, what was your barometer of how you noticed that they were inside or outside? Were y'all just taking their word for it?
Right.
Because how did you investigate it and not see that it was submitted at the 47-second mark? How did you see it their way? And I think that that's going to be a lot of the questions and disputes that come, further, I guess, when we get the what happened in Paris document. Exactly. The 30 for 30 for what happened in Paris. But I do think, I'm going to say this. One, shout out to Jordan Chiles. I feel so deeply remorseful for this. I just really feel my heart is going out to this young woman, because she had already had a hard time getting to the Olympics. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like, mentally, physically, she was having a hard time. She switched gyms, went to work out with Simone Biles, and that was like a big deal for her. So for her to be here and medal was massive. She did get the team gold as well. So she's still she's still a medalist, an Olympic medalist. But I think the bigger point for her was that, I was doing it on my own. And, this is what it is. But I think what this is setting her up for is her own 30 for 30.
Oh, for sure.
By itself. Because what she don't know is, like, sometimes a setback ain't that. It's a setup. You know what I mean? And I know that you can't see it right now. But it's kind of like the Devin Haney situation. Like, unfortunately, we all saw you get your ass whipped. You know what I mean? So we saw her win.
1,000% it's giving Reggie Bush vibes of, well, you got to get back your Heisman trophy. No, he won the Heisman. We saw it. He had the year. We saw the numbers. The numbers was the numbers. And we saw the win happen. You can't take back what we already saw. And this is working out in her favor in the sense that she is getting tremendous support, at least from the U.S., because they said she was getting, she was basically getting heckled and hassled. She's getting such groundswell of support
from Americans.
And
you want to know why?
That's going to work out in her favor.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because America has been rewriting history since the dawn of America. So we don't really need there to be a score or anything for us to say who won. We just going
we won.
We won.
This is our land.
First of all, is that not a picture of her on the stage with her bronze medal and that's the gold medalist and that's the so? It just is what it is. And I feel like on a global stage, this might give her a little bit more pressure. I'll be honest about that, to show up for things. But at home, baby, you won.
Yeah, you won.
You won, and you're a winner. And I just want these humans to just know how exceptional they are. And I know to be that exceptional comes with a lot of burden for whatever it is, your community or this or that. I just need her to know that she is a star. She is an Olympic medalist. You made it to the Olympics. People, as the person participating in the Olympics, we know that you have a standard for greatness. But as the people watching the Olympics, you made it. And that was enough, baby.
Period.
That was enough.
That's
you know what I mean? So you don't have to feel away with us like we gonna hold you down.
And nothing brings Americans together like hating another motherfucker.
And that's the truth.
You know what I mean? It was straight like, they hit them World Trade Center buildings and everybody was gang. I've never seen, such unity. It was like everybody was we're all pro-military at that point.
For real.
And it's kind of feels the same way, like F them. You know what I'm saying? F the Olympics, F Paris, F Romania.
Literally.
You don't steal medals from us. So
because now y'all stealing.
Now we feel like you stole it.
Now you stole it. That's really, y'all stealing medals now?
Yeah.
That's the name of this joint.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So there's that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know we just wanted to kind of give you guys what were highlights to us, things that were kind of like catching our attention and everything. But thank y'all so much for joining us again. We were so excited to watch the Olympics and everything that's going on. Get yourselves and your kids into something obscure like table tennis and ping pong. Okay, for the next round, we want to see them. We want to see Bonquisha out there, baby. So thank y'all so much for joining us again. I'm your girl, Intisar Eleanor. This is Joe Connor. Like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you beautiful mother jumpers later.